billboard, on a backdrop or banner behind people, you're looking at?
Something is there to stop people from these things. Machuku, thank you once again. Thank you. I really enjoyed talking.
And we need to put them to positive use in a matter that would create economic impact as well.
Hello and welcome to the Benny Uche Show. I'm so excited that you could join us today. I know your schedules are busy, but I can assure you for every second you're with us today is going to be worth it. I have on the show today a friend, a fearless woman who has staked her life for many causes, and she speaks from the heart. My guest on the Benny Uche Show today is a transformational growth development consultant, a life coach, emotions therapist, marriage relationship counselor, a trainer, a speaker, a women's rights activist, and the founder of Acts Generation. She is a handful, but she's an interviewer's delight. Please join me in welcoming to the show today Lila St. Matthew Daniel. Lila, welcome to the Benny Uche Show.
Thank you for having me.
At long last, I have you.
Yes, of course, yes, finally.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being here today.
It's a pleasure.
You're a woman of many parts, and the founder of Acts Generation. For you to have gone into being a woman's activist, an advocate, it'll be interesting to find out how this all came together. Tell us, for the interest of our viewers, for some of those who have not seen you leading protests on TV, who exactly is Lila St. Matthew Daniel, and how did you get into women activism?
That question is quite broad-based, you know. I call myself a melting pot of many parts.
Interesting.
But I'll take the question which will lead us to other things. Personally, I do not like injustice. Personally, I do not like it when people are taken advantage of, no matter what it is. And personally, especially because I'm a woman, women and children causes. And so somehow I found myself I think it must be about 10 years now or 12 years now. I've always been vocal. I've always been someone who'd be the one to look after people, plead other people's causes. I'm always the one people will come to report cases, and I'll take it upon myself to go. So I wasn't surprised when suddenly I had this desire to do more. And I always say that when you are focused on God, the God factor, He will always give you your mandate, your purpose, no matter how far you've been going back and forth. At a certain point, you will zero into your path. And I found that my path became empowerment, motivational, inspirational, and everything that I do, whether it be as a life coach, it be as a trainer, speaker, it always gravitated towards empowering people, especially the women and the girl child. So I just found that whenever there were things, controversial issues, I felt very, very passionate about it. My passion would override any anxiety or fear that would manifest as a human being. And I'd take the lead and activate certain things. And I'll find myself either on the road or being very vocal in areas where they needed somebody to talk. So that is how I got gradually into that field. And you see, a lot of people, it's not because they are cowards. A lot of people know what is right and wrong, but we are all gifted with different things. And so they would always, you know, ask me to move ahead.
Having said that, I'm sure there's some element of education or some academic studies that has helped you through. Tell us a little bit about that. You know, maybe courses or what you studied in school. How has this been helpful to this path?
Yeah, my baseline is business and administration. I'm a process person. Most people know it. I will process so much as processing, even when my kids were babies, how they would feed, the time they would feed, so that they don't become a problem for me as a mother. So everybody knows and knew I'm a process person. But when I found myself going into training was when I started asking questions why people found it difficult to internalize instructions. You would tell them what to do now, they will tell you yes, we would. They would do it for a short while and revert back to status quo. It used to get me very, very upset, and sometimes I used to feel it's deliberate or they just don't want to do it. And at the point where I went, everything kind of came out, where I broadened out was about 10, 12 years ago. And I was in the hospitality industry as of that point, helping to put forth processes and procedures, and found that every time I tried to train them, there was a problem. Then I realized that everything has to do with beliefs and mindsets, foundational errors, and what can I do about this? You can you can train till you are blue in the face. So I had to go for life coaching psychology training to be able to get past the gateway into the subconscious. That is where our character is. And I had to do what we call neuro-linguistic programming. That's the language of the brain, because for you to change people or have transformation done, you must be able to speak something into the brain to let the person know that, look, this is good for you. Because if they feel it's not good for them, they will clamp down. And I discovered that was the reason why most people will not internalize training. So these are the things that I went into to assist me in the professional side. Strange enough, Act Generation is a gender-based organization focused on domestic violence and abuse. And all the emotional issues, traumatic issues, I now found that what I had trained myself in actually came to play there, because there's no point rehabilitating a traumatized woman or a woman who has been hurt and pained, whether, even if she's not traumatized, maybe grief, maybe all sorts of things. If you cannot realign their mindset and their thought processes, if you cannot get them to see beyond their grief or their pain or their hurt, so that they can be empowered and made to feel whole and able to do all they can as human beings. So that now came to play. So that's why I said I'm an all-rounder,
awesome.
you know,
Awesome.
like a potpourri. Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, you've been watching Lila St. Matthew Daniel speak to you on her journey with transformational growth and development. You're watching the Benny Uche Show. We'll be right back. Welcome back. You're still watching the Benny Uche Show. Before we went on the break, just in case you're joining us, my guest is Lila St. Matthew Daniels, a gender advocate, a gender issues advocate, so to say. And this is one woman who carries the causes of other people in her heart and in her hands. Lila has told us before the break how she went through the process, the trainings, the motivation, how she got to where she is today. But then I know I said at the beginning of the show that some of you have seen her leading protests on TV. I would like to find out from Lila, this fearless spirit that you have, known to have led a lot of protests that have metamorphosized into, huge things that are like bigger than you right now. I'm talking about how did the Chibok girls protest start? What role did you play in that?
Well, talking about the fearless spirit very quickly, I meet people I went to school with in secondary school, and they are very surprised that I had this in me. And the way I evolved, I realized that in every person, there is the unique you. And sometimes that unique you might be put to the back, depending on the experiences that you've had, either parental experience, childhood experience, peer group experience, and then it's hidden. I was known to be very, very shy. I was one of the people that when they say something, it's like, you crawl under your chair as a teacher so that they won't point the finger out to you. But I now found that suddenly I became even bolder and bolder and bolder, and that emboldened me to have this near fearless spirit. Nobody can have a full fearless spirit, because one of the things that enables us to exist in life is to have a bit of fear. That helps us in the fear or flight timing, when if anything comes through. Now, coming back to the Chibok Bring Back Our Girls situation, I remember that I used to be very incensed whenever I heard that women were kidnapped or abducted in the northern part of our country. But I felt a little bit incapacitated because I'm not a politician. I don't hold any position of authority. And we just talk amongst ourselves, activists or concerned citizens, or when we are just talking. But on this fateful day in February 2014, when we woke up and discovered that about 43 or 53, the numbers are not quite clear even today, of young little boys were slaughtered in Buni Yadi overnight by members of the Boko Haram sect. I got so upset as a mother as well, not just as a concerned citizen or an activist, but as a mother. I just couldn't comprehend. And I decided, I remember it was a Tuesday, and I decided we've got to go on the road. Everybody's so afraid to come out and talk about what's been happening. Mothers, I decided to target mothers. I said, mothers, enough is enough. We have to go on. I put it out on my Facebook, and I said, mothers, this could have been you. It could have happened to anybody. And I'm sure there are some children from other parts of the country that were there, because it wasn't just a predominantly northern school. It's a federal government college. And you know how my first daughter, years back, was in federal government college in the Middle Belt area. So I then put the call out, and I said, let's go on the road. I was a little bit, not too sure. I was a little bit afraid too for reprisals. You don't know where reprisals can come, that, oh, you people want to go on the road. But I had this inner conviction that was not just me. It just took me over. And then I put it out, and I called one or two CSOs and NGOs. I said, look, we're going on the road. Are you ready to go on the road with me? There were people who were not too sure. They were anxious. And I said, well, I'm going. If you want to go, fine. Then suddenly I began getting calls from outside Lagos. How can we join if we're not there? I said, okay, what you can do is gather women together too and walk to a prominent place, either a human rights office or a government office. And what I want you to do is wear all black so that nobody says that there's any funding or financials concerned. Have a placard, wear black, take your water, very calmly, do not antagonize the police or anything. It's a peaceful protest of enough is enough. Government, what are you doing about this sect and how it's affecting the women? They're being taken away, children are being slaughtered. And before I knew it, it gathered momentum. So I came out, being a process and procedure person, as I said, I came out with a process that if you are going to be part of this, these are the captions that can go on your cardboard. nothing inciting. You must not abuse the government. You must be unemotional but focused on your message. And I gave out about 25, points. It wasn't just me. I had called, as I said, some of my counterparts. I believe in collaboration and synergy, and we all picked out the tags to use. Then I put down again another process of how they should go. Stay by the sidewalk, do this, do that. You understand? If you are accosted by any law enforcement officer, be very polite. What we are trying to get across is government, the women are not happy. It could be anybody. So on this faithful day, it was the 6th of March. And because the situation happened on the 25th of February, and it was the 6th of March, and 2 days before the 8th, which is International Women's Day, which was very fantastic. And 8:30, we all went on the road, and it was fantastic. It was in 7 states. 7 states picked it up. UK picked it up, and some people in the US, but our timing, but the fact remains that it started off something. One thing I've realized, Benny, is I seem to be a visionary. I seem to be, it took me a while to understand that I'm a seed sower. It comes up, I sow the seed, and then it moves off, it blows out. So I saw this, we went on the road, and it was fantastic. We initially nearly had a situation in Abuja because they were not sure. But the night before, I spoke to the police, and I said, we're just a peaceful group of women, mothers, sisters, and men too were part of it. All black, take your water, and it was very, very peaceful. And all we called out for was that we need action, because before this, we were not seeing action as such. And I'm glad to say that after that was when it became more rampant that we were being told the army was moving, because I do know that a week after, there was a battalion that actually moved on the way to Sambisa. And for us, that was good. And from then, the government was reporting more, they are here, they are there. I know that there were some stories whereby it was not quite right when they said they've taken this, they've taken that. Now, after that, we now sat down. I now sat down because whenever any place wanted to be joined, I'll say, pick a coordinator so that there is a coordinator, and I would. And in my office, I became like a mini Pentagon. I was coordinating 10, and that was when I met the former Ekiti State First Lady, Irelu Bisi Fayemi, who is a frontline activist too, and a gender specialist. And I was so shocked, very unassuming woman. She ran with, it was 2 days before that I got a call that the Ekiti First Lady wants to be a part of it. I said, really? So she mobilized, and she was on the road and obeyed, all black. Nothing, no government insignia or anything, and they just had cardboards with the notations that we had. So when we finished, I now said to myself, okay, from 5 of the states that were really prominent, I called them, I said, let's form a small group that whenever anything to do with women and children come up, we can come together and brainstorm. Remember, I said I have a way of moving by myself.
Forming like a coalition.
Yes, so form a little coalition that maybe, so I said, fine. Lo and behold, 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later, we woke up on the 25th and 200 plus girls had been abducted. What? So I quickly called everybody. I said, what should we do? On my WhatsApp, on email, I said, what should we do? I believe that this is beyond walking on the road. Maybe we should have an international conference. I mean, get CNN and everybody, and we sit down that enough is enough. This thing has to, government has to show its hand and everything. That is where sometimes it doesn't work when you begin to ask people's opinion about things that should happen just like that. And by the time we're going back and forth, there was somebody, 2 of them, were about 7, antagonized themselves. One was from the north, one was from the south. And because I forgot to mention something, during the Nigerian Women Mourn, I remember that people were attacking me that what is our own business? That was after. What is our own business? This thing happened up north. What's our own business? Why are the northern ladies not coming out. Luckily in Abuja, about 2-3 northern ladies had joined, you understand? And one of them called me up and said, it's not because they don't want to be vocal, but they need to be careful, because at that point in time, everybody was very afraid of what was going on, and people were being targeted, you know, all over the place. And so I came out and I said, we're all one. Whether southern women or northern women come out, the fact remains that we're women, we're mothers, we're sisters, we have one role. And if one side is, for whatever reason, not able to speak as of that time, another side should be able to come out. I came out and I spoke on TV, and I did that. So 1 or 2 of these women were with us, and before I knew it, there was a little bit of a controversy, and suddenly there was a little bit of anger, and the next thing I knew, one of them had put it out and said, oh, should we go on a walk, and or things like that. So, and now I didn't see it on time. So I called her and I said, what's happening here? She said, well, you see, I just thought we should, and then it sank into my head that, okay, this is one of the things that happen. When some people see that things are moving at a certain pace, there is a tendency. So I kept my cool. Some people say I should keep my cool, and that so long as the focus was there. So we said, okay. And she said, what name should we call it? At that time, there was a conference in Port Harcourt, and there was a guy, people don't realize that Bring Back Our Girls was this lawyer guy who said, what we want is, it was a conference that was happening, and Bring Back Our Girls. So we now said, okay, let's use that as, not realizing that it was going to blow out, and I said, okay, let's use that as the slogan. And I was asked who should be in Abuja and who should be in Lagos, because it was the 2 areas that we thought we. So Abuja, Hadiza Bala was, she was said to have done some things like that, and Lagos, somebody else. I said, no, I won't lead Lagos. I'll just be in the background, so and give them so I sowed the seed,
so
and
Abuja
the seed,
took it up,
Abuja
and then
took it up, Lagos took it up, and then it had a life of its own. And
absolutely.
for me, that was fantastic. It's not about who's leading. And luckily,